Hey, I wanted to hop on here and make a quick video here for Monday. Said here twice. Moving on. Today's video is going to be on losing control. What does it look like? How do we project it? And what is going on in our mind that we are subconsciously compensating for? Okay? Losing control. Losing control can look like many things. And it can be anything that happens suddenly that makes your internal being feel upside down. That could be as simple as losing your car keys. Maybe that's not something that's normal for you, but it flips your world upside down. Okay? To something as drastic as a midlife crisis. Or another one would be a sibling dying or losing a job. Okay? So as you see, there's multiple scales of losing control, and we all become more accustomed to this feeling as we go through life, which makes it easier to cope with. So when we have a hard time pinpointing what we're losing control on, but we feel feelings of irritability, frustration, misunderstood, unappreciated, and can't seem to fulfill those emotions within ourselves, this would be a state of losing control. And we have a tendency, the way that we project this coping skill naturally without further investigation, is to latch on to whatever we can control. So, think about when something that is yours that you do, whether that be a hobby, whether that be something that you build every year or a tradition, it's you, right? Okay. Now think of someone taking that from you. Some people may feel defensive, some people may be okay. So, I mean, it depends on where you're at in your development with this coping skill. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where someone's offering you help and you refuse it, or you feel that you have to do it, you want to do it and only you can do it, or you want to do it alone. So the hyper independence, a good example of this would be as people get older and moving around becomes harder for them, losing that independence, their mobility, and accepting help from people is a really big release of acceptance. They have to accept that they're not capable of doing what they used to, or when you get older and you have to give up your driver's license, for instance. These are all things that are huge, huge, huge parts of us. Our mobility, our freedom, and ability to get around. That's everything. That's our whole world right there. So getting older and having to let go of those things is rather difficult. That would be a prime example of losing control, and the resistance that comes with that needs to be acknowledged. If you can acknowledge that you're in a state of losing control, or you have lost control over one area of your life, I'm not saying all areas of your life, just the one area, and it will affect every other area of your life slowly but surely. It's like the gears, right? You have all these gears, and the one up here keeps breaking, and you keep replacing this one gear up here and not understanding why it keeps breaking. The problem was coming from the gear down here, the misalignment. So all these gears are turning and it keeps breaking this one. the problem's at the root, everything else will fall into place, right? So how do we end up in these states? Usually from a state of denial, delusion, not wanting to accept, which would be denial. In life, we're always faced with acceptance. Acceptance is the key lesson you're going to face over and over and over again in the various forms that it shows up. And man, let me tell you, does it show up in many different ways. I know I haven't finished learning all the ways, or all the lessons of acceptance. However, the ones that I have learned, I am very grateful for now that I have integrated them into my being. It helps with wholeness. It helps to let go. It helps as well for forgiveness of self and others. So if you see someone and they're freaking out at you over something that you feel is very small, for a minute ask yourself, who kicked their cat? We used to say this in sales training. So kicking somebody's cat is from a book Zig Ziglar has written, Think and Grow Rich. And what he's referring to is, don't freak out on me because someone kicked your cat this morning. It just puts it in a funny way. Or you could put it in the terms of a scale. So if you're someone who bottles things up inside, and here's your scale, your elevator of events. And let's say your limit, your breaking point is right here. And throughout the day, boom, 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 you stubbed your toe this morning, that puts you up a notch. You got into a fight with your spouse this morning, puts you up a notch. You are at work and now someone says that they didn't get a paper done in time and you throws you over your breaking point up here and you freak out on them for everything that's happened down here up until your breaking point. When we release and unleash our wrath on somebody who doesn't deserve it, that would be another state of losing control because we're not in control of our emotions. We're not in control of how we are perceiving our environments and how they emotionally affect us. Forgiveness is such a huge part in acceptance of people for who they are. Preferences, it's okay to prefer certain things, but to dislike and shut down completely is very isolating, not only to yourself, but to others around you. A simple, I prefer to do this instead, is all that's needed. With love and light, you guys.